Well, if it isn't Mexico, it will be somewhere else. The economic crisis has turned political. We have riots in the streets of Eastern Europe. We've seen the fall of the Czech government. People talk about the Ukraine, and all of this may just be the beginning. If unrest spreads, will America be forced to play the role of global policeman? And frankly, the real question right now, when this nation is running multiple trillion-dollar deficits, is can we afford it? Joining us now to talk about it, Colonel Jack Jacobs, retired U.S. Army, and Ben Friedman, research fellow at the Cato Institute. Good to have both of you with us. Colonel Jacobs, let me start with you. It is incredible when you look around the world at the unrest that we have seen as a result of the economic crisis. There really is only one military still around the world, that is the military that gets called in, the policemen of the world. That's still the United States of America. Are we spending enough to do that job?
Well, it's less a function of whether or not we're spending enough. There's no such thing as spending enough, than it is how the money is distributed. We have a military establishment, by and large, that's structured to fight large wars. A large war with Russia or with China, very high-priced equipment, airplanes, boats. These are very expensive to run and so forth. One of the things we haven't done up until now is to seed the military establishment with relatively lower cost, but much more important special forces, special operations forces, intelligence forces, command and control capability to fight the small wars we're engaged in around the world.
And Ben, what is your view? Obviously, we're spending so much time focusing on this because of the economic impact of the crisis, but also the Obama budget. They say they're going to be boosting defense spending. Now, part of this perhaps comes just from bringing in costs that the Bush administration had counted as supplemental into the actual budget. So there's questions as to whether they're really increasing defense spending or not. Do you think in this budget that we're putting the right amount of defense spending in?
The right amount of defense spending depends on what you want to do. Now, I don't agree with the premise that you raised a moment ago when you said that instability means the United States has to police all over the world. If that's our job, we need a much bigger Army and Marine Corps, because that's a ground force-centric mission, and we're going to have to be policing states everywhere. But I think we ought not to do that. I think instability abroad generally is not a threat to the United States, and we should try to avoid getting involved in other people's civil wars rather than go looking for trouble. So I think we can have a smaller military budget if we took that advice.
In fact, you're saying 50% smaller.
I think, yeah, I mean, look, the defense budget went up about 50% since 1998, adjusting for inflation and not including the wars. So I'm saying we should go back to where we were in the 90s. You know, we don't have a lot of big enemies left to fight, so let's have a defense budget that reflects that.
Colonel Jacobs, what do you think, though, about this broader issue as the Obama administration tackles this budget? And we are in the midst of an economic crisis around the world. There will be more military issues around the world. And the United States will have some very tough choices as to when to get involved and when not to get involved. Do we know where the administration stands?
Well, not yet, because it's yet to be reported to the study group is yet to report to the president about what it wants to do in Afghanistan. We'll hear about that tomorrow. But we're involved in a lot of different countries right now. The large majority of them, where we're involved on the ground, is involved in training indigenous forces in order to take care of things themselves. But all these things do cost money. We're very reluctant to get involved overseas. We're basically, I know it sounds ridiculous, but we really are an isolationist country. We get involved overseas very, very reluctantly for a wide variety of reasons. And when we do get involved, we get involved at a very, very low level. It's unusual that we're involved in places like Iraq and Afghanistan at the level that we are. But we have people in the Philippines and in Indonesia and the Horn of Africa, all trying to do the same thing, to train indigenous forces so they can take care of themselves. Right. But in the end, all that stuff costs money.
And when Andrea was just reporting, we've promised helicopters as an example to Mexico. Those have not been delivered. I know we had promised, look, we've even promised helicopters in Sudan, and some of those have not been delivered. Well,
there are a lot of decisions that are made not by the President of the United States, but are made by the Congress. They are Article 1 of the Constitution. Some of the biggest expenditures are in high-ticket items like the F-35, F-22, large capital ships, and so on. And those programs last a long, long time and cost a great deal of money. When you ask the question, what size should the budget be, and you want to cut it, you have to first ask the question, what is it that you want to cut?
And Ben, I'll leave the final word to you. In terms of the Obama budget for defense, what is your takeaway? Good or bad?
Well, it's too big. We still got much too big a budget, and I don't agree at all that we're an isolationist country. We got forces in 90 countries. We're defending Europe, which could defend itself, Japan, South Korea. We're fighting several wars on behalf of other countries right now, or other civil wars. So, you know, we're a very aggressive country, and we ought to cut back on that.
Colonel Jacobs, China isn't a threat to the United States. Everyone talks about how they've got more people in their military than we do, but they certainly don't have the same technology that we do, but they're increasing defense spending.
No, they are very dramatically, particularly things like capital ships and their air force. I think we shouldn't be sanguine about either Russia or China, and that's one of the reasons why we're expending so much money for the out years. We can reduce our expenditures, but it has to be done judiciously.
All right, Colonel Jacobs, Ben, thanks very much to both of you.